Hey, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and I'm super excited about this episode. I'm sorry for the delay, but between the traveling and the interviews, your boy has been quite busy. And today's episode is titled, How to Stop Arguing and or Debating with Women. And this is episode 6 of my individual content. I'm super excited about this. I've gotten a lot of requests in the comments about this. But before I jump into the episode specifically, I do want to get into the habit of always shouting out the subscribers and the members that have been supporting this channel since it first started and since you all have come about. As of right now, we are at 23,688. Let's just take it for what it is and not try to use it as a weapon and say, see, I got a guy that confirms what I'm saying, because it's really more so about making sure each side better understands and gets what it is that we're trying to do, which is life together. So, although this is targeted towards men, I'm going to say this specifically to ladies because I know some of you are watching this. You don't get to reject correction and demand protection. So this entire episode that I'm about to do today is for women who are open to the idea of being corrected at times. Open to feedback. You don't get to reject any and all forms of feedback, reject being corrected ever, and reject correction and demand protection. So
there's a reason for that too. A lot of times correction is the protection, and so you hearkening onto your man or husband or whatever it is, his word, and not debating him and trying to fight back. His correction is what's going to keep you and your family safe. But a lot of women, they're so caught up in trying to feel empowered and be independent that they don't even realize this.
Very quickly, over the course of this episode, men are going to start to learn and observe many of the traits of those who are interested genuinely and receiving feedback, correction, and accepting leadership and what that looks like. And those are the types of women that they should be prioritizing in terms of maintaining and establishing relationships with.
That's why I like this guy, man, because he's solution oriented, and I can respect that. There's a way to vet. Men are gonna have to take vetting more seriously if that's what they want, because the biggest hurdle with this when it comes to men is our insatiable appetite for women. We want more women. So if they giving it up, a lot of men, they would prefer to have a wife, but it's gonna be hard to get them to not dib and dabble. But I guess, maybe if they understood how to vet and why vetting is so important, then maybe they might change their mind and be interested in getting married again. I don't know.
But ladies, no, you do not get to reject correction and demand protection. Now, fellas, my view when it comes to arguments, and I've obviously struggled with it at times as well, is that you've already lost as a man if you are arguing with a woman, especially with a woman who you are not even responsible for.
Yes. Yeah, that's one thing I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna put energy into something that I ain't responsible for. I had a conversation in Clubhouse, right? And the girl she was a moderator or whatever, and she was trying to use her little tactics. And for me, I have people that I'm responsible for. And when you're responsible for people, you don't really want to be responsible for nobody else. You know what I mean? And so she was like, "Yeah, you're the leader, right?" And I'm like, "I'm not your leader. I'm a leader, yeah, but I'm not your leader." And she couldn't use that. She tried to use that as something to disarm. And it's like, I don't care what you do. You know what I mean? I'm not your leader. So I know that you're not the type of person to even be led. So I wouldn't even try leading you. You are a rebel. Stay like that.
What good is a captain where no one on the ship listens or respects his authority?
Facts.
So the initial goal for this particular episode that I'm going to pitch is that I need you as men to start to get better at distinguishing two different types of women, because this matters when it comes to many of the strategies that I'm going to try to introduce. These strategies will not work on and with all women in all circumstances.
Correct. Yep.
Generally, there's two different types of women when it comes to feedback. The first group of women are those that you can distinguish the way in which they tend to internalize feedback based on their either initial or soon afterwards responses, where they will either find it encouraging, they will find it helpful, they may even be thankful and even praise you for bringing to mind things that perhaps they weren't aware that they need to improve on.
I agree. This is how I would classify that, though. I would think that that's a diamond in the rough, okay? Because most women don't operate like that. It is my humble opinion that you gotta train your woman into being able to accept feedback, especially black women, because most of us have never experienced male leadership. And so the idea of feedback is foreign. You would have to stand firm in who you are as a man, which is easier said than done. I've had situations where I've had to break it down and say, well, listen, when I'm giving you correction or instruction, that's not the time for you to give me correction or instruction on something that you think that I did, because then we start arguing over who did what. And so that took time to learn. I didn't just automatically assume like, hey, she's just adverse to feedback, even though she was. But if you want to be in this relationship and you want this relationship to flourish and maintain, then you have to be accepting the feedback, because you're not perfect. And I'll demonstrate to you how to be acceptable to feedback, because I know goddamn well I'm not perfect. So I'm also an example. I only said that because I think where he's gonna go is he went the nice route first, which I knew he would, that's a great strategy. I'm not even gonna knock him. Then he's gonna go into what to be wary of. But I think that has to be a middle ground, and the only reason why I say that is, and I don't expect anybody to waste valuable time, resources, and energy on something that ain't gonna work. But if she's just receptive to being receptive, that's a start. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you do you want this relationship? Yes, you do. Okay, well, this is where you gotta be at with it. I know it's hard, but I'll let him keep going.
Now, granted, if you're not doing the things that I'm going to suggest well throughout this episode, it may not matter what type of woman she may be, especially if you're not doing many of the very specific things that I think are essential to maintain a healthy dynamic between two parties. But is she the type that tends to internalize feedback and responds more favorably to it, appreciative of it, does see it as somewhat helpful, and may even thank you, and even maybe, praise you for the fact that
good luck with that.
You were able to articulate it in a way in which she could receive it and hear it, and she knows that she can better serve, support, and love you as a result of it. Or
this nigga's talking about unicorns. I have a great relationship, and my woman don't even do that. When I give her feedback, she's still pouting. You know what I mean? Like, I've been doing it for years, and she still got an attitude behind it. She still push back. She still fight against it. She still, it's just like in her nature. He's talking about a diamond in the rough, like, a unicorn, a mythical creature. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna let me keep going.
Distinguishing the two types in terms of how they tend to internalize feedback. Does she only see it as complaints, attacks, and that she's a victim?
Typically, yeah.
Her reactions and her responses are going to very easily let you know, generally speaking, what type of woman it is that you're doing life with, living with, and in a relationship with.
Okay.
Does she tend to approach receiving feedback in one of those two spheres? Regardless of which one she presently is, your first option is to listen to the rest of this episode, try and implement it, and see if she can be in the first category, even if she hasn't been that for quite some time.
Okay. All right.
Now, I had recently used this when I had this analogy when I was meeting for an interview with Call Me Shape, his podcast, and we had discussed the idea of arguing with women and what are the fruits of it and how to kind of get away from conversations being so adversarial. And I had used this analogy, and I tried to think about it a little bit more deeply to better break down exactly what I mean. So I view arguing with women, especially as men, as something close to an oncoming car crash. When you first start seeing tensions rise, where both parties are starting to get very elevated, tone, volume, just body posture, is very, very clear that we're really about to get into it. It's starting to get very contentious. Words are starting to get exchanged left and right. And this is about to go south.
See, is he talking about arguing with like random women or your woman? Cause this is easy to implement with random women that you don't have no horse in the race with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't, whether she win or lose, is Casper the friendly ghost to you. That type of woman, it's easy to implement. I wouldn't even waste valuable energy arguing with you, because I already know that women argue just to argue. They know goddamn well they dead fucking wrong and would still argue down. And I don't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? You're not about to disrupt my peace. Like, I know.
That's kind of like how I view an oncoming car crash. You see what's coming if this momentum continues. That very, very small thing in the distance is very quickly starting to get bigger and bigger as the car gets closer. You are clearly going to, quote unquote, crash. The most obvious thing to do when you want to avoid a crash is to start using and tapping on the brakes, slowing things down. So in regards to a conversation, especially with your female counterpart as a male, how would you tap the brakes? How would you slow down? One of the first things I highly recommend.
Ask a question.
Typically when people are arguing and very contentious, there's no breaks. Each person is just going at it, trying to get the last word in, trying to get louder, quicker, sharper in their words, because each person is attempting to, quote unquote, try to win. Instead, as men, what if you start to count to either 5 or 10 before you respond?
You see, what I would do is, and I think that that's practical, but when you're more refined with it, number one, I know that in any conversation that I'm having with a woman, I'm the leader, and so I take leadership very seriously. And what I mean by that is that I know that my leadership is probably going to have to be the example that I have to set for you, so that you understand and learn how to behave appropriately. Even though I'm going to give you instruction, I also have to give you example as well. So for me, in a more refined sense, I would always have an inquisitive mind to be able to better understand where she's coming from. Like, I would want to know, like, okay, what makes you think that? You know, let's see if we can extrapolate where things are going wrong and be able to try and find some common ground. Some women, however, they are bona fide, don't want to hear nothing nobody got to say, arguing you down no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to know when and where and how to, you know, distribute that energy effectively, because they just some like vampires. They just drain you.
Slowing down the speed of which you're heading in the wrong direction verbally.
Sure, okay.
Giving yourself that 5 to second pause is the first step, I believe, of giving yourself a fighting chance of not saying something that you may end up regretting later on. Now I
typically always say exactly what it is that I mean. That's why I have a conversation in good faith, because I can have a woman, you know, trying to get a rise out of me, because I know that that's what they're trying to do. And if they get a rise out of me, that's when they win. You know what I mean? With a woman. But me, typically, I just kind of calmly explain things. And then if we just agree to disagree, it's all good with me. You know what I'm saying? Whether you take it or not, you know, I'm not dependent on it. So I'm not really so gung-ho about getting a thought or idea across to them, because I know that any idea or thought I get across to them is only gonna serve them. I'm giving you an idea or thought that's gonna benefit you ultimately. I'm not here to have no arguments or win any battles, because I've already won in life, so it's all good, you know.
Granted, wait the 5 to 10 seconds and then curse or go off and explode, but you get the point. Slow down and stop modeling and following after her.
Exactly.
In terms of how quickly she's trying to go back and forth.
Exactly. You're playing her game. You got to take it to the man realm.
And then even when you do decide to start to speak, try to objectively observe yourself, trying to listen more than it is that you are responding.
The one who listens the most wins. You really, like, you're playing her game, because in her game is the one who talks the most that wins, but in reality, that's not the case.
The person who has to have a last word, who has this impulsive reflex to keep talking and keep saying something over and over and over, isn't actually listening.
Right.
They're just waiting to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would ask a question just to make sure I understand where they're coming from if I need to, or I'll just reiterate to them what it is that they're saying. And then when I say something and they just responding, I say, hold on a second, and I'll make them still man what it is I said. What did you hear what it is I said? Yeah, I heard you say. Tell me what it is that I said. Then you said say it again. That's what I'm saying. How we gonna have a conversation if you just waiting to respond? I control conversations because I'm the man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm gonna be the example. I'm gonna listen to what you're saying actively so that I have a great understanding. But when I notice that you're just listening to respond, I'm gonna question you, inquire about it. That's what I do. What is it that I said to you? Something. Say something about something. Say it one more time. You wasn't even listening.
Count 5 to 10 seconds before you say something. Start attempting to listen for more duration of time than it is for you to respond or say something. Now, this is the key part. Lowering.
That's hard to do. Listening more is a chore. Like, it's a muscle that you have to work on. Like, listening, it's hard. I'm telling you. Pause.
Your tone and volume.
Man, listen, man. Don't be tone policing me, dog. That's one thing I do not like. I don't like nobody tone policing me. Volume, I give you that. But don't tone police me. I'm saying how I want.
This is very difficult for a lot of men, particularly and especially if the woman in which they're with is starting to raise her volume.
Yeah.
And her tone.
Shit, man. Man, look, sometimes you gotta let them the fuck know. I'm telling you, look, I've been with me and mine, and I'm talking about in my relationship where I actually care. You know what I mean? I would be calm tone. And the calmer I am, the louder she get. Calmer I am, the louder she get. The calmer I am. Then I get loud, she get low. Oh yeah, don't yell. You been yelling, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta get that lion roar, you know what I mean? Like Mufasa. Sometimes you gotta roar one time, you know what I'm saying? They let them know, hey, the king is here. Don't get too loud. For real, they like it.
My view and lens of this is, and I'll get back to, when I'll touch on it a little bit more, but if you're matching her in terms of trying to react and respond to everything she's saying as quickly as possible, if you're trying to match her in tone,
she's leading.
Match her in volume. I think that's grounds for acknowledging who's actually leading this interaction.
Thank you.
And it's not you.
Yep, she's leading. That's exactly what that means.
As you start to slow down, and you're now counting 5 to 10 seconds before you say your next statement.
I can appreciate his ability to be able to articulate himself for the absolute most common man. That's why I don't like teaching. Cause you gotta pick up the pace, dog. Like you don't know this, dog. I get mad fast. I got a sharp fuse, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't stand stupid people. But he is really giving you something practical that you could do to really start to give yourself time to think. I look at it like this, man. Ain't no way in hell my woman is ever gonna be leading me in no way, no fashion. That means that I have to measure up to that. That means that I can't play the same game she playing. I have to find a way to be able to control and contain what it is that she's doing. And a lot of that comes through listening more. And then pointing out to her that she's listening to respond. And reminding her calmly that if you want our relationship to work, communication is always going to be a part of what it is that we have to do work and labor on. It's supposed to gradually get easier if we work at it well enough. But in the meantime, this is what we have to work on. And in order for us to work on that, you have to be able to actively listen. Because I know I'm listening to you. I want to hear what it is that you're saying. If you operate in that space where you're looking to gain understanding and you make that your primary reason for having the conversation with your woman, I'm talking about with your woman, I'm not talking about with these randoms, then you always are going to be in control. You always going to be in leadership.
You're starting to try to listen more than it is than respond. And you're attempting to lower and slow down what you're saying, how you're saying it. Your next attempt is to try to actually become a little bit less accusatory. Up until this point. And then
gotta be inquisitive. You have to go into it giving her a chance to explain what it is that she means, unfiltered, and she has to go first. Because as a leader, you have to reserve yourself and not play the I'm more powerful, I'm more badass than you game. You gotta certain things just for the sake of progress where you're not giving up ground, but you are allowing her to explain herself until her face turned blue. She done said the same thing 10 times over, and you sat there and listened to it 10 times. Y'all start saying it together. That's the level of patience that you would have to be able to access to really maintain control of your relationship, because you have to have a certain level of stoicism with you.
Previous arguments. You have no problem using the word you.
I do it sometimes still.
I would suggest the way in which you can start to help her and both parties to start to de-escalate is to turn the attention onto yourself. Instead of coming off very accusatory towards her and saying, you didn't do this and you did that. Start with me and I.
Give me an example.
Now, there will be men in the comments. Why do we have to go through all of this? Why can't they just be treated like adults? Listen, I will get to that at the end for why I think there needs to be nuance to how men need to see women and how women need to see men. But those men in the comments will prioritize the need to be right and feel right in the moment versus the goal being for us to be good.
Right. That's what leadership is.
They would rather win the battle
and not the war
based on pride and ego than focus on the goal of us being good in order to de-escalate the tension.
Yeah. You gotta lead from the front. So you're right.
Second piece to slowing down the conversation, thus tapping on the brakes. Becoming less reactive.
Stoicism, baby.
Extremely difficult for very emotional males.
And a lot of males are very emotional because they come from a gynocentric worldview. They mama taught them that shit. I used to tell I said to myself, and I said it to my brothers, man. I'm like, listen, bro, mama raised us, so you got a whole lot of bitch in you, dog, and you got to get that shit up out you, son. Like, real talk. The way that you perceive things, the way that you operate, that's that bitch that mama put in you, son. Got to get it up out you, dog. It's like you got to purge yourself of that shit, dog, because it causes you to operate in a less logical state, and you operate in the frame of a woman in an emotional state and respond emotionally. What a waste of time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why do you have to go through the gates of emotion before you learn valuable lessons? You could just observe reality and use logic. We're capable of it. Matter of fact, that's our best language. You know what I'm saying? Emotions is the language of a woman.
Who, despite their belief that they're so much better and superior to their women or female counterparts.
I know I am.
When I see two people arguing in the streets, they both look like adults that haven't figured out how to handle themselves quite well. And just
I see a weak man. I see a woman being a woman, and I see a weak man, because you should be able to have a level of respect that your woman has garnished for you, that she won't argue with you in the streets, and that is only developed through you demonstrating the ability to lead. Let her talk first. Let her talk till she's blue in the face. Be able to have that level of discipline inside of yourself, where you're actively listening and allowing her to speak. That's hard to do. If it was easy, everybody would do it, but you have to be that person. You have to, if you're gonna lead, if you want her to follow suit, you gonna have to be that person, and it ultimately garnishes a level of respect where she wouldn't embarrass you out in public, making you look like a weak man. Because that's what I see. I don't see two people doing. I see a weak man and his woman.
Because you do it behind closed doors doesn't really make you that much substantially better. So again, when I was talking with Shape, I had to use the dodgeball analogy of any person who grew up playing dodgeball knows that when the ball is being thrown, every single time the ball is being thrown, you shouldn't be dropping to the ground and doing backflips and doing hurdles and ducking. You tend to do that when you believe the ball is actually somewhat close to actually hitting you. If they're throwing the ball 20 feet away from me to somebody else, what am I reacting for? Everything in the course of a conversation with a woman doesn't need to be reacted to or responded to, especially instantaneously and impulsively.
Okay.
The reason why I'm suggesting this, believe it or not,
I like this term.
Rather than feeling like every single word, every single attack, every single thing that may not even be true, many men struggle with having to try to correct and address every single thing that they believe isn't lining up with their perception and even their view of reality. In that moment, when emotions are high, you have to stop assuming that people are using rationality and reason and logic in that moment. They're not. They're not. Especially when emotion is dominating the space.
You're right, 100%.
So you trying to lean in harder and harder is actually potentially just communicating to the other party that their feelings don't matter.
This is my perception, okay? I'm not the psychologist. I don't have the degree. I just have an idea on women, just like the rest of y'all niggas. As a man, you leaning in harder, more and more playing her game, signals to her that you a weak nigga. That's what it does, bro. I've been in Discord, right? Shout out, This Might Be Risky. I be in the Discord, right? And they be trying to like stir up an argument with me. And so I would ask them to explain to me what it is that's going on so I have a better understanding so I can listen first. Because most men that they come into contact with, they're gonna try and bull guard and force their way through a conversation. It's like, bro, that is the most feminine thing about you. And I'm not saying be no simp to shut the hell up every time a woman is talking. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if she fighting this goddamn hard to talk, go ahead, let her have it. She got something that she really need to get out, go ahead. And you have to allow her to get the whole thing out, because that way you can address the idea. If you trying to address each word, each syllable, each thing you don't agree with, and can't stomach her saying everything she needs to say, you can never get to the point of whatever her idea is. And being able to address the idea, that's where real change happen at. Okay, you thinking this, even though you said all that shit backwards and all that other stuff, but the way what you're thinking is this? Yeah. Why do you think that? I think that would do more benefit for you as a man if you have to make a correction. That's why it's important to listen. You gotta demonstrate listening, the skill of listening, because it's not easy. It's work.
And when you're communicating to them that their feelings don't matter, what's an immature?
Bro, I'm gonna tell you like this. I communicate overtly that they feelings don't matter. I communicate overtly that they feelings don't matter if they feelings isn't grounded by logic. If it's grounded by logic, it matters. Anything outside of that, if it's just I feel like this, but I don't really know why, and I'm trying to explain it, blah blah blah, nigga, you look, baby, you gotta go find that shit. Go find that shit out, figure that shit out by yourself. And when you have attached it to some type of logic, then we can discuss it on this realm and this plane. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, you need to let that shit go.
Or response potentially going to be an ad hominem, an attack.
Sure.
An outright statement that both you and they know isn't true, but in the moment they feel like it's true. I would suggest that rather than reacting to every word, every statement, and every claim, if you slow down your responses, if you listen more than you're willing to respond in the moment, and you lower your volume and tone, and you're not
don't tone police me, dog. I'll lower the volume, but don't tell me how to talk, man. I'm not changing my tone for nobody. I don't do that tone policing.
Reacting to every single thing that's being said and trying to be like the Matrix and dodge all these bullets. The question I would ask is, who actually in this moment is in control of your actions?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it you? Or is it her emotions?
Right. Do not get on a roller coaster. I'm trying to tell you, they're gonna try their best to coax you and pull you and drag you and gaslight you onto the roller coaster of their emotions. But if you stay stoic and you keep everything in a logical sense, you're gonna be in control. You have to be able to control the conversation, bruh. You got to. That's the only way. That's the only way you're gonna have true peace.
Are you in control of what you're going to say and how you're going to react and respond? Are you compelled and forced to say or do something because of someone else?
He's 100% right. He's speaking
this
only
is a
facts.
different level of self-control.
Yes.
That when mastered, or at least when done well, you'll begin to start to realize that you're no longer a victim and a reactor to anything, any and everything that's happening within the relationship and just in life in general. That you actually do have more control than perhaps you thought you did.
Yes. Facts.
Connected to the question of who is in control of your emotions, this is where leadership matters.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Being the captain on a boat when the weather is great and everything's going well.
Easy.
And there's no crises. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but kind of anybody can be captain then.
Easy.
It's when something's wrong with the sails.
Yes.
When there's an engine failure. When you run out of coal.
Mm-hmm.
When the weather is starting to shift. That's when leadership and calmness and direction.
It shines.
And focus matters the most.
Yeah, he's right.
Leading in the area of arguments and conversations and debates, especially with women, in order to consider yourself the leader, you have to be willing to take the hit.
Exactly. He's right. You're 100% right. That's the only way. If I wasn't able to, number one, slow down a conversation, I can slow it down so well now that I can literally stop and point it out. This is what you're doing. This is how it's happening. This is what's going to lead to that. I can slow it down for myself sometimes. I'll be like, man, listen, I got to slow down, man, because I need to listen better. You know, I want to listen a little bit more. Say what it is that you were saying one more time, because I gotta catch that again. There's something I didn't understand. I didn't catch it. You know, that's when you actively and operate in a way that is beneficial for the entire relationship. I wouldn't be able to tell my wife, like, when I'm correcting you, that isn't the time for you to correct me, and her be able to receive it if I hadn't demonstrated those leadership traits initially for her. But I'm gonna let him keep going.
You are the shield to the relationship.
Facts.
Obviously, I'm not speaking in terms of abuse.
Right.
But what I'm suggesting is, if there's a moment when something is going to be said and somebody's going to get hurt by it, do you want to be the one that's the leader who gets to do that to your wife or girlfriend? If someone is going to make the mistake of saying something harmful or saying something they shouldn't do,
it's definitely going to be her. Should
that be you?
No.
As the man, as the leader, as you call it.
It's definitely gonna be her, and I'm gonna make sure she apologize about it too, because we're gonna unpack it. She gonna say what she gotta say, and then I'm gonna ask her, I'm like, do you mean to say that? Because if she could say, I don't mean to say that, you can just go ahead and give me a quick apology and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. You wanna lean into it, we go ahead, we unpack that thing, because I'm gonna get that apology one way or another, because you know you're wrong. I make it a point to not say anything I don't mean emotionally. That is not good leadership, and it shows weakness.
Should the person or people who's most prone to struggling with what to say, how to say it, and needing extra grace.
He's right. They do. Because they're emotional.
Be your wife, your girlfriend, or a child.
Yeah. Because they're emotional. Very.
Leading. Taking the initial hit. Shielding the relationship from the onslaught of whatever happened, whatever interpretation of what happened, whatever words are being exchanged.
Somebody got to take
it. Put down your weapon and put up your shield.
Mm-hmm.
And you start using the word me and we, what we need to improve on, so as to get substantially better at turning the attention off of her feeling like it's an attack and you are being accusatory towards her, towards trying to focus on what it is that you need to change. And from a relationship standpoint, what we need to do.
I don't know, man. I'm not gonna, totally shut that down. I'm gonna take that into consideration, but I think that if you approach it simply with the mode of understanding, even if she's saying a whole bunch of bullshit and y'all arriving to that place where it's like you just saying some bullshit because none of that is what you're saying is true. I listen to it. I think that that's what is necessary, but I don't, I statements, I don't know. What if she's totally wrong? Like, there are instances where, a lot of them, where she is just 100% totally just wrong, flat out wrong. Like, there's no if, ands, or but about it. She just wrong. What if that's the case? I don't know.
Any woman who is semi-mature, semi-likes you or loves you, is going to start to recognize that you're not actually talking to her, but you're talking about yourself and you're talking about us as a relationship. So instead of saying, you need to grow up, you were wrong, you're an idiot, I don't know what's wrong with you. Instead of, you know what? Even if I disagree with you right now, I know that I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret.
That's a true statement.
So you know what? I'm going to give us 10, 15 minutes, or we're going to revisit this a few hours from now. But I care about you and I care about us to not want to take this in a direction where I might say something I might regret. Even if I don't understand exactly where you're coming from, I'm willing to slow down and not really say too much more and just hear whatever it is that you got to say. And then when I think that I'm in a good place where I can communicate better with you, I'm going to try to check in with you for why you felt and saw things the way that you did.
Yeah, I can appreciate who he's speaking to, because he's speaking to the emotional man. And, to me, you lose so much ground having to go through a gate of emotion as a man that it's almost not even worth having a relationship, because your quality of life gonna be poor to me. Me personally, I guess because it's honed, I would automatically be in the space, despite how she's saying it, to gain an understanding of what it is that she's trying to convey, so that we can deal with that issue, and then maybe I can make the correction so that we can move forward effectively. I will tell her to make sure that, you talk to me with respect, because I'm gonna demonstrate the same thing back to her, and I would maintain the control inside of the relationship where we don't even get to a place where we're disrespecting each other. That's not talking to the masses, so I guess I can appreciate that.
Leadership.
You're right.
It is only your pride and ego that makes you not feel you need to do that. For a lot of men, when it comes to these conversations and debates and arguments, it's only pride and ego that commands and demands that you get immediate results in that moment.
Yes.
At the height when emotions are at their worst. From a religious Christian background perspective, even God in the garden did not get perfect obedience. So what makes you think you ain't got no Garden of Eden and you not God? So who convinced you that you're going to always get instantaneous, immediate, emotional, and verbal results to the way of your liking?
I agree, yeah.
Humility, pride, and ego demands results in that moment. You have less patience, you have less time. And instead, if you set the humility, the pride, the ego aside, you're probably going to go from acute accusations and direct attacks to open questions.
Yes.
And being more open to her feelings and why she feels that way.
Listen, that why she feels that way is a dangerous game. I lie to you now, that's a dangerous game. In therapy, the therapist asked me, do you ever wonder why she feels the way she feels? And I'm like, fuck no, hell no, never. I never wonder why. And she was like, why not? And I'm like, because if she can't tell me why, then I don't wonder about it. Now, if she tell me why, any day of the week, twice on Sunday, then yeah, I'm open to hear it. But outside of that, I don't do that, because you'll find yourself going down a rabbit hole of emotions where the answer is there is no answer. You're dealing with a species that feels away for nothing, because that's how they navigate life. So they got a bunch of feelings out there for a bunch of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10.
So when she says something that you know isn't true, when she says something that you can go back and play the recording and you can prove it, that it didn't happen in the way in which she's articulating it. If you became more interested in what she's feeling and why she's feeling it, and less at telling her that her feelings and opinions and views are wrong in that moment. You may be allowed during the course of the conversation to add clarity.
And it be received.
To help explain how and why her feelings and conclusions ended
up wrong.
In which they did.
They're wrong. Look at how he said it. They're wrong.
We struggle with not wanting to validate certain things And because we don't validate the initial emotion, we are never able to get to the place of where they got to that emotion to begin with, especially in terms of the conclusions they started making off the initial premise.
So it's, what are you saying to me? Active listening. Okay, so X, Y, and Z is actually A, B, and C? Okay. All right, I understand why you would think that because of E, F, and G. But in reality, X, Y, and Z is always going to be X, Y, and Z. And A, B, and C is always going to be A, B, and C.
He doesn't listen to me. He always says that I'm wrong. He always says that I'm dumb. Why would somebody who believes and experiences that believe that you're a safe enough person that's going to allow them the space to get all of this out? Again, fellas, my suggestion when you really think about this is when
You're right. I'm gonna tell you what happens when you provide that safe space for them to articulate their thoughts about why they feel certain ways. You know, after they've gotten it out and is more receptive to what it is that you have to say, they start to realize how smart they're not. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, shit, I'm always wrong and I'm okay with it, but let me just go ahead and default to you because you've been having to correct me, you know, for the last 10 years. And you can really, you know, you have really found a way for me to be able to receive what it is that you're saying and understand the error of my ways.
you change the you for we and the your for us, what you're attempting to do is externalize the issue or the problem outside of the person you're talking to. Even, I would say, outside of the relationship. So now you're putting a separation between the problem and your partner.
So it's us versus the problem is what he's trying to say.
The issue and your wife or girlfriend. You know what? I feel like we're starting to get a little bit hype right now, and I think that we're getting to a place that we don't need to go to. So I think it's best for us to just slow down right now. And, you know, I'm just going to listen right now. Or I think we need to cool down, give ourselves some time to kind of get to a better place where we can talk better to each other. And then I'll check in with you and see if you're ready. And then we can kind of try this again. That's very different than you have an attitude. You're the problem. You need to watch your mouth. You need to calm down. Not us. Not we need to calm down. You need to calm down. You see how you're probably going to get to probably different reactions, response.
That's when you don't play the game, you know? When you're more seasoned and you're more honed with it, you can see where it's headed. And so you can mitigate.
Responses to that. That is, believe it or not, what leadership and taking ownership of the relationship is.
You're right.
Especially up front. It sometimes and often looks like taking the initial blame, taking accountability for the continued direction of it.
You are accountable.
And
you're the leader.
Willingness or lack thereof to approach things through this lens reflects whether or not you have the mindset of a man who's actually a leader or the mindset of a man who's actually single and trying to do life with another woman.
Right. There's a totally different thing. He's right.
So I have 3 C's that I think will be very helpful in terms of communication. You need to speak clearly, concisely, and last C, constructively. As you become more concise with your words and more intentional, if you're slowing down and speaking clearly, and that's the kicker, that's the one that a lot of us as men trip up on. If you can figure out ways to be more constructive versus accusatory or destructive, you're giving and extending an olive branch throughout the course of the duration of the interaction. That's what you're doing. If she is anything close to a good woman, soon after, later on, or perhaps later on the next day, she will acknowledge that she overreacted.
That's true, but good luck with that. I'll say it takes consistency. Like, you would have to become that leader first. And it's not until you become that leader and you start to demonstrate those qualities that you should expect your woman to follow suit. Like it takes time for them to catch up. My mother used to tell me, when you've sown seeds, you have to let those seeds flourish and grow and produce the fruit that they're gonna produce, and then die off. And then the new seed that you sow, you're gonna have to nurture those the same way you nurture those bad seeds, allow it to flourish, and then produce the new fruit, which isn't always right away. And so if you continue to operate in a space where you're working on yourself to become a better leader, then of course, your woman is gonna follow suit. But sometimes women are obstinate, so you got to be cautious of that.
She will acknowledge what you try to do, and she will even appreciate your willingness to attempt to not match her in her emotional intensity.
She'll respect it.
There's nothing worse for a woman who emotionally is being led by her feelings and emotions, to be constantly getting triggered by a man who's being led by his.
Yeah.
Now, I already know what some of the comments are going to be at the end. We don't need to do this, and the abuse and the coddling. It doesn't matter. This is not about accepting abuse. I don't know how many times I have to say it. It's not actually about coddling. Versus recognizing biological and psychological differences between the sexes.
You have to be understanding to the fact that they're emotionally led. That's what makes them great. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way they can't pull at the thread of what attracts a man to a woman. You can't pull at that thread, because you're gonna just ultimately create a man who thinks like a man. Women don't think logically. That's okay though. They're not really designed to. So you have to, as a leader, meet them where they are, not too far. You don't gotta go into their domain, but you gotta kind of meet them where they are, so that your relationship and whatever institution that you're creating can move forward effectively. Because if you just request them to come all the way over and meet you in your realm of thinking, then you're never gonna be able to really lead anything, because you're just as selfish as they are.
And making room for women that show signs of a willingness to grow, to apologize, to accept feedback, and be led.
Yep.
That's what it's about. It's not about abuse and coddling. It's just simply recognizing the reality that men and women have some inherent differences, and accounting for what those differences are, and rewarding the women who show the signs of a willingness to grow, to apologize, to accept feedback, and to be led. And if she never apologizes, if she never accepts feedback, and always questions your views and your decisions, she's not for you.
Exactly. If you don't like the way I'm doing things, go find a nigga that do.
So what's the need to continue to try to win the debate? You're not that guy, and she's not that woman. This is not about guaranteeing that you will never have communication challenges with women again.
Right.
That they will instantly respond well to you, and that you'll never have relationship issues. It is about an attempt on your part to improve the way you try to communicate with women. They still have a right and autonomy to disagree and agree, to stay or to leave, regardless of if she is an acquaintance, a lover, a friend, a girlfriend, or wife. What you have control over is
yourself.
You.
Yeah.
What you have control over is you.
He's right.
How you show up, how you engage, and how you respond. So this is not about centering one's life around women, their demands, and their feelings and emotions. It is actually about understanding the codes of life to integrate an entirely different system of thoughts, emotions, and experiences into your own realm of existence in life. You must learn how to hold, nourish, and protect the soul that you are given, that you claim, that you want in the season when you have it in your hands. Your job as a man is to learn the music to her soul, to get her to dance with you. That's how I believe we can begin to get better and not arguing and debating with women.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, he's absolutely right. Outside of that tone thing, you know, you can lower your volume, but I'm gonna say it how I want. I typically like to operate from a place of absolute control of self and master of self, so I really don't allow, or I try not to allow myself to get too far out of pocket where the conversation that we're having isn't productive. There are instances where things can get out of pocket, but typically, more than likely, the conversation is going to be productive in one way or another, because I don't like wasting my time, and I don't, as a leader, I don't promote that in my relationship at all. I lead from the front, so I'm willing to take the hit. I'm willing to listen first. I'm willing to actively listen. I'm willing to demonstrate it. I know that if I'm not demonstrating it to her, then there's no way for her to pick it up if I call myself the leader. So I agree, but just don't tone police me. I ain't shit. I'm saying how I want.